Hello, everyone, and welcome to Support Someone Saturday. I'm so excited to be here today with you all, and I have Simon Wilce. He is Executive Director of CAP, Chicago, or Christians Against Poverty, and he does live here in Chicago. So Simon has worked for Christians Against Poverty since completing his law degree back in 2003. He started out by advising desperate families on how to get out of debt, and he went on to manage multiple teams. He moved to New Zealand, which sounds totally exciting to me, in 2009 to lead the national work of CAP there before hopping back to the UK for a few years to lead the operations. Then he crossed over the pond and he launched CAP here in the US back in 2019. Simon is passionate about equipping local churches to serve the poor and share the gospel. In his spare time, he lives in Naperville, right outside Chicago, and he likes to run and chill out watching a good Netflix show in his spare time. So, Simon, welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. Yeah, I think back where did we meet? Was it on the Faith in the Marketplace radio show?
Yes, we sure did. So it was exciting. So last October, I believe it was, you had just moved to the US and we were scheduled together as guests. So you had just come over here to launch CAP and I had just published my first book, Model Behavior, and they had us interview together with Bob Lambert and Jennifer Villarreal. And so it was cool to be on there with you. And then we've kind of followed each other ever since. So thank you for coming on today with me.
Yeah. When I heard that I was getting interviewed with a model, I felt this sense of like, oh, come on, God, that's just not fair. But at least it was radio, so people couldn't see, but now they can see me in comparison. And yeah, as you can tell, I am originally from the UK, so I'm hoping your viewers will be able to understand my accent and tune into what I'm saying. But it was really great to meet you that day. And I've loved keeping in touch ever since. I read all your e-shots with pleasure, and they're always encouraging. And I want to say thank you on behalf of our organization, other organizations, for having us on and highlighting some positivity and good work. I think that's awesome. And I wanted to say to you as well, Amy, my colleague, when I came on, she was like, oh man, Amy Job, she's really got the gift of encouragement. She's so encouraging because we always see your responses to kind of our e-shots and stuff as well. And so we love you, and it's a pleasure to be here today.
Simon, thank you so much. Those are very kind words. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I do love to encourage, and so that's kind of, I think, even how this got birthed, this whole Support Someone Saturday, to help other people out there, and all of us are trying to reach those in need, especially during this season. So can you tell me more? How did CAP get started, and what is the founder's story?
So our organization, so Christians Against Poverty, has got, I think, a really cool, interesting story. And it was kind of born out of our founder's story, a guy called John Kirkby. He's now actually Dr. John Kirkby, CB. He's a commander of the British Empire in the UK, but he had really humble beginnings, and his story, I think, would really resonate with a lot of Americans. He left school without a lot of education, but then became a bit of a self-made man. Started with some entrepreneurial type companies and working for a big American finance company, building, lending, things across the UK. So really successful guy. But like a lot of people that are successful, and he wasn't a Christian, on the inside, he was a little bit messed up. And made some poor decisions and really lost everything. So late 80s, early 90s, found himself in crisis debt. His job was gone. His wife left him. He was living in one room really with his two young daughters, and experienced really the opposite of being a self-made person and losing kind of everything. And really then this is kind of where CAP was born, because a local pastor reached out to him and kind of stumbled across him and really demonstrated what local church and who Jesus is in person. So he would help feed his children. He would listen to John. He just shared the gospel with words and deed. And John kind of radically gave his life to Jesus Christ. So it's an amazing testimony, amazing conversion point, and God rebuilt him from the inside out. So that's kind of John's testimony. But then really what I love about God is it's not just how you find Jesus and get saved and how he restores you. It's then what he does with your life, isn't it? And the adventure we go on with him.
Yeah.
And John, a few years later, life back in order, said he just walked into work one day and said, I can't do this anymore. I've got to go out and help people that are struggling in poverty. And he said, what's the one thing I can do? Well, he said, well, I was in unmanageable crisis debt. I can reach other families and I want to share Jesus. So in 1996, he started this thing that was called Christians Against Poverty. And it's now around the world. It's the probably biggest provider in the UK through churches, Australia, New Zealand, Canada. And we'll talk a little bit about what we're doing here in the US later, but just an amazing testimony. And if the one thing I could tell you, and by the way, if you fancy a copy of John's book, I'm sure it there. It's called Nevertheless. We give it away free, and it's just on our website, capamerica.org, and you'll see the sign up there. And it's a real faith story, and that's what I want to get across to you guys. CAP is not just the things we do. We live by faith. We start out with nothing. We believe God's going to turn up, and we take really big risks. And our story is one of a big God who always provides. And then we just see amazing life transformation. But it all came out of kind of one man's story and how God can turn around the desperate circumstance and then do amazing miracle things.
It is so cool just to hear, just a ripple effect of how he was changed and now he wanted to help others. And now it's like nations are being changed, and people, it's just amazing. I know it's grown really fast, right? Even CAP, since you started here back in October, it seems like it's, just really God's blessing is on it, like you said, and it's amazing to see how God is moving, and it's awesome. So Simon, can you tell me how did you get involved and what is your current role?
Yeah, well, so as you read out at the beginning, I did a law degree, and at the end of that, you go down one of two routes. You either absolutely love it and you want to become an attorney, or at the end of it, you just go, gosh, I can't do that for a job. So that was kind of me. I was the second one, but I'd grown up with a real passion for God. I grew up, I was, into a Christian home, gave my life to Jesus early on, and read lots of kind of biographies of famous people, and always had like a passion to do something for God. I didn't want to live an ordinary life. So I kind of stumbled across Christians Against Poverty in its early days back in 2003, walked in on this thing, and there was very little to it. There was about 20 people working in our head office. We had none of our international work. And yet you could just sense the Spirit of God resting on it, the vision of John, the guy I talked about. And so I just kind of threw my all into it. And so that was 17 years ago. It might not look it now. I just celebrated my 38th birthday.
Happy birthday.
What a journey it's been. And started out managing teams, doing, working with the clients we help directly and seeing amazing things happen. But then this joy of ended up in New Zealand for a few years, growing the work over there. Amazing how, CAP, Christians Against Poverty, was just received and the impact it's had. And then a couple of years ago when we journeyed over here, I just have a real passion for the States and you guys and, the opportunity to build it over here. So I'm now the executive director for Christians Against Poverty. And I guess kind of a little bit like the founder of it here as well in the US, built it from nothing. We came over, the UK sent us with a small amount of cash to get going. We picked where we were going to do it. We found some US staff members, a few churches, and so we've really grown it from nothing. But it's a privilege to be in a place where you need God to turn up. And the great thing about God is he is faithful to his word. And he does turn up. So that I always want to be in a place where I get to see God move, be part of his story really, then just see the impact that we have on people's lives.
That is so cool. That's so exciting. I think there's parallels, even in my modeling career, I felt the same way, being called to be a pioneer and blaze that trail. And I really relied on him, and he did show up, and it was so exciting because the same as you, like I didn't want to really live an ordinary life, and I had that adventurous personality, and it's amazing what God can do, and you just yield to him, right? And surrender and trust him.
There's some really scary anyway. But,
there's scary moments and good moments, right? What he always goes through.
Amen.
Okay, so tell us, what does CAP actually do to help people, and how can you share with us some good stories, maybe a good testimony of some family or individual that's been helped?
yeah, I guess some people that are listening might be going to say, that's all good. So what does Christians Against Poverty actually do then?
Yes.
And before I kind of do the detail, I always say really what our mission is and our passion, and really that the passion we've got, and if you can't get it from the name, is definitely Jesus Christ front and center. So the gospel, everything we do, we share the good news of Jesus Christ. It's why we've seen probably over 11,000 responses to Jesus around the world through the work. So we're really passionate because we know that's the one thing that will transform a life.
Yes.
And we believe that. So whatever other people believe, we know we've experienced it, and we want other people to experience that too. But we're also all about then relieving poverty in practical ways, really doing that. But we always do it through local church, and church is our passion. That's how John got found and saved. It's impact in my life. So we always have a phrase: no church, no cap. Everything we do, we offer through a local church. So that's our mission. That's our passion. But what we do really then is helping families in crisis debt and unmanageable debt through an outreach work we do. And I think the first thing I'd say about that, just so that people listening really understand what we're targeting, is really to understand what's the difference between like manageable debt and unmanageable debt. Because hey, a lot of people in the US have debt, and it's part of our life, isn't it, really?
Sure.
So for a lot of people, we think, well, yeah, you've got debt and you can manage it. But really, a lot of people here have unmanageable debt. So manageable debt is where you can pay it. You can pay it every month and still have a reasonable life. And maybe you need to do like a Dave Ramsey course, and you can, to get your spending under control and your debt becomes manageable. So that's great for a lot of people. But hey, there's a lot of people here in the US that are in unmanageable debt. They just can't pay. Their debts are spiraled out of control. It comes through a job loss or sickness, or their partners left them, and all sorts of really sad situations.
Yes.
And they can't pay their debt back. They, whatever they do. And the effects of debt on people's lives, just like John experienced years ago, is it leads to relationship breakdown. We're seeing families breaking apart with debt, people feeling suicidal because they're being hounded by collectors. They're missing meals because they're paying creditors rather than. So we see this kind of massive issue, and that is what Christians Against Poverty do. We're here to reach into the homes of those people, and mostly unchurched people. That's where we're here for the lost. We want to connect the church with desperate, marginalized people. And the best way to explain it would be to kind of share a story. And one of my favorites is a lovely lady called April. I love that name, a really cool, vibrant name. And yet when we went to see her, she was in a desperate situation, a solo mum, single mum, and she'd just given birth to another little boy, really beautiful little boy. And she got, when you hear someone's background and you go, surely life can't have been that hard for you. And grown up in an abusive home, she had PTSD. It was like a war zone that she'd grown up in. Depression, suicidal, and then in the midst of this, trying to run a household with no partner and all of life circumstances. And she was paying so much money to creditors that the only money left over, and this is what I want people to understand what debt does, is she bought food for the children, and for her, she had the equivalent of maybe $2 a week to buy food left. That's what she had left. And you go, well, how do you survive? And she was just making, the pancake mix you can buy, the ready-made. So she'd just eat pancakes every day for 2-3 weeks at a time. So the pressure that was upon her was amazing. And then one day, someone had been round and dropped a Bible off at one point and trying to look after her. And she opened it up, and in the middle of it was a cap leaflet. That's why I love the God.
That's awesome.
So she phoned up the church. We sent round a worker. And it was just this amazing meeting where we took and lifted off all of that burden. And when you're in debt, we do this amazing professional service. We've got credit counseling. We stand up to creditors. We do plans. We've got all this amazing thing. But what makes the most difference is when you walk into someone's home and you just say, God loves you. It's not your fault. There is hope for you. And that's what people in crisis debt need to hear. And that's kind of the amazing thing we get to take with God and the local church. And by the way, if there's anyone listening that's in that situation, I think both of us would want to say that to them. God loves you. It's not your fault. It happens to lots of people. And there is always hope for you. And that's the message we carry. And is that not the message of God wrapped in local church. And
Totally.
that's why I
Yeah.
get excited about this stuff. So anyway, April's story, just to finish it off, we got her debt free. She ended up in church with her family. And yeah, just relieving all that burden. So amazing end to the story, but that's what we do, and that's what we're bringing, I guess, is the US. So
That's so cool. It's just like I envision you being the hands and feet of Jesus. Like she's in a desperate situation, and that's what Jesus does. You know, he goes and finds us. You know, it just lifts us out of whatever kind of pit that we've fallen into. And that's awesome that you're doing that through CAP. And I'm sure you're probably getting a lot of calls now with everything that's happening and job loss, and especially here in Illinois. You know, I think it's been hit pretty hard. And yeah, even on our industries, you know, we talked a little bit about it, you know, live events, we've got friends in hospitality, the airlines, restaurants. It's just so many different people that they don't have work. So yeah, it's a time of great need, and the church can really rise up, and organizations like CAP and really meet those needs. So that's awesome. I know God is greater than, you know,
and yeah,
any lack. So
we've got some answers in the church that the world.
that's right. Yes, that's right.
Well, we can do this, and God can.
Yes, and there's supernatural provision. I've seen it in our lives too, you know. Okay, so tell us again, how did CAP end up coming to the United States, and what are your plans moving forward?
Yes, so we've become international a long time ago. So again, our founder, a bit of an entrepreneur and big vision, and that's what people love about CAP, is the fact that we're not this small organization, but we say we're going to do some crazy stuff, and then we go out and do it. So our first work came when he went on holiday to Australia, had a coffee with a businessman, and they're like, should we just do CAP over here? And that's kind of how CAP International was born. We've become a lot more intentional since then, and yeah, through prayer and discernment, we looked at the US and we thought there's two things where CAP is really needed. One is there's lots of great stuff over here for the middle class, the kind of the affluent people and stewardship resources, but there's just this niche of the divide in the US is growing bigger between the haves and the have-nots.
Yes.
So we really believe we've got something that works for them, that's really gospel focused and is just so needed. And we also saw that we've been born in kind of a post-Christian society in the UK, and we've learned as churches, how do you connect with people when they don't come to church anymore?
Yeah.
We think we can work with, you know, churches in the US and say, hey, things are changing quickly over here, but we've got some ways that you can connect with the unchurched, meeting felt need. So anyway, we believe that. We believe God's called us to it. So our vision over here is just to get established and then go crazy. We're believing we'll have thousands of our centers across the US. And within, yeah, as you said, just the first kind of year of being here, we've now partnered with about 15 churches, probably vast majority in Illinois so far, but we've already had interest in like Oklahoma of all places.
Okay.
We're down there, we're in South Carolina, Virginia, we're in conversation with church in Seattle and California and all sorts of places. So like I say, what people love about us is that we say at the beginning of the year we're going to do this massive growth, and at the end of the year we've done it. And I've been at the beginning in New Zealand where we had nothing, and then look back after 10 years and gone, wow, we have covered a nation. So it's exciting, and I'd say that for people listening, you know, you're in at the ground floor hearing about Christians against poverty. And there's something really special about being in something at the beginning and then looking back and go, I knew about that. I was part of it. I saw it right at the beginning. And so I just encourage people to look at it and get involved. But big need at the moment with COVID-19, as you said, and yeah, probably worth referencing that at least.
Yeah. So tell us, how has COVID-19 affected your organization, and what are people doing to help, and who are you helping right now? Yeah,
well, I mean, organizationally, as with every nonprofit, as with every individual, it's obviously hit our fundraising. We can't meet people, we can't do our banquets, we can't do all of the kind of things we want to do. So I'm sure every nonprofit would say the same. So, but hey, we're used to living by faith, and we start every month not quite knowing where all the money is going to come from. So we're believing in God, and He's been faithful so far. And that's been exciting to live in. But really for us, as much as it affects us, our hearts are really breaking for people in society and what's happening. And we see really that I think there's going to be a bit of a delayed effect with COVID-19. I think that we've had a lot of people stepping up with kind of emergency needs and with government stimulus and all of that kind of thing. But everyone is aware of the two things that are going to happen. The government stimulus, even if they do something again soon, it's not going to last forever. And the impacts of this thing, man, jobs are not necessarily coming back. Hours are not coming back. Industries are affected. So I think the word a lot of people are using is like a tsunami of need that's going to come. It's going to start as like a small wave and just get bigger and bigger and bigger. They're calling it a tsunami of evictions, of debt is growing. People are relying on debt in this period. So that's really what we're part of a response to, and what we're partnering with local churches is how can we get a cohort of churches together to, when these families fall over and they reach out for help, we're there. And we kind of see ourselves as a bit of a lifeboat. People are drowning in debt and poverty and issues. And yet with churches, Christians Against Poverty, we can be the life raft and pulling people out of drowning in debt. And that's what we're aiming to do. So need coming, but excited that God, it's almost for such a time as this. You know that verse in the Bible where Cat could have not been here this year, but he knew that he needed to get us here last year so that we would be ready to be part of the response with lots of other people. But God's timing is perfect. And it's good to know that he's ahead of us in all this stuff and he's got it in hand.
That's awesome. You know, I just launched my YouTube channel and I called it Esther and Mordecai Generations. My middle name is Esther. I love Esther in the Bible, and that comes from Esther 4:14. Perhaps you were born for such a time as this. And so I think God is using, you know, people like you and Cap. I mean, think of the timing. You came in here just a few months before the pandemic, and he's just raising up men and women like Esther and Mordecai and others that just had bold faith, right? They fasted, they prayed, they relied on God, they came together, trusted him, stepped past fear, and just saw him provide and heal and protect in amazing ways. And I was also thinking about the loaves and fishes, right? You know, in the New Testament, when Jesus had the, 5 loaves and 2 fishes, he multiplied it to feed 5,000. And so I think just for us as Christians to know God has not left us, he'll take care of us, like the needs will never become greater than what he can provide, So praying that for all of us, So tell us, what is the best way that people can reach you? If people do need help right now and they're watching this interview, or maybe people want to get on board and volunteer with your organization or make a donation, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, let's do the 2 things then. So the thing we're always looking for is churches. As I said, that phrase, no church, no cap. We want it run through local churches. They're placed in their communities. They're the ones that know the needs, and we want people then plugged into church. So if you're part of a church, maybe you're in leadership, or you can pass it on, let people know about Christians Against Poverty. And again, it's really important for me to say, this is not a stewardship ministry. We're not here for, we are here to be an outreach ministry to the lost and the hurting, and it's really different. So it's just worth finding out about it. So again, you can go to our website. I think it's capamerica.org, so capamerica.org/partner. And if you go to that, you'll find out how you can partner with us and find out more. So that's one thing, and that's we just want as many churches as possible. And then obviously we would love the support. And what's amazing about this thing, like I say, we've got an amazing vision. It's exciting. People love to give to vision. But what's most important is really the vision is about people. It's about the lost, and the stories that come out of this thing are huge, so exciting when you see that life transformed and hear the testimony of someone who is far from God, now in church, back on their feet. That's just, it's so worth giving money to, and you're giving it to local church, because we just plow it all back into local church and equipping them to do their mission. And the need is, we've got a massive need. As I said, we live by faith. I do not have the cash right now to pay my staff in a couple of months' time, but I'm believing whether it's you or someone else that they'll come. And what's really exciting as well, Amy, at the moment is we build up recurring donors. We're just about to hit our 100th ever donor.
Nice.
So if someone signs up $10 a month, $30 a month, $100 a month, whatever you can do, you
Sure.
could be in our first 100 ever givers.
Yeah.
In the UK, we now have 30,000 recurring
Oh,
givers.
wow.
But can you imagine like being able to say, I'm in the top 100 ever?
Yeah,
So
there
anyway,
you go.
that
Oh,
I
thank
think that's a really special thing, and you know
you.
where it's good. If you want to do that, that again is our website, capamerica.org/donate, capamerica.org donate, or you can call us up on our line. It's free phone, and that's 888-444 9185. So 888-444-9185, and we'd love to chat to you, find out more. You can call us if you need help as well. We'd love to help. If someone's out there listening, the last thing we want is for you to be struggling. Give us a call. We'll do an hour with you on the phone. It's not our traditional way of working, but our heart is for people, and we don't want you struggling right now because of all that's
Good.
going on. So
Yeah.
get in touch with us for whatever reason. We'd just love to hear from people, chat to you, and just get to know more people here in the US.
Thank you so much, Simon. You just have such a good heart. And I think it's awesome that we can use the phone right now, because we can't have all the in-person meetings, but just sometimes talking to someone on the phone when you're in a desperate situation, it can be life-saving, right? And life-altering. So that's awesome. You're so available. I so appreciate you joining us here today for Support Someone Saturday. And for all of you listening out there, if you want to get involved or donate, or if you need help, you heard Simon kind of mention how, but I think capamerica.org is where you can go to get answers and even to make a donation. I would encourage you to support CAP. I think it's an amazing ministry, and it's growing, and it's exciting to see what God is doing. So thank you again for joining us, and God bless you. Have a wonderful Saturday.